Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We're back. Now, I was on Multi Monday last night. That was very interesting. We were looking at doubles. Corsendoc, I thought it was going to be nearly world class, but as it turns out, to give it an honest evaluation, after having it in 7 years, I found it was only a 91 Corsendoc, and I felt terrible about it. But what could I do? That's the ale that I brought. I wasn't going to get on malt. Bumpy Road Breweries, Jesse's Hangout and say it was great. And when it wasn't, I give honest reviews. They had some good ones on there, many of which I never had, but I've had Armagang Abbey Ale, great beer. And I've had Westmalle Double. So that was a great one, Trappist. But anyway, tomorrow night, Wednesday night, we have a theme. It's not Wildcard Wednesday. It's going to be summer beers. And I want to bring one that I haven't had yet. It's called a Beta Hard Lemonade. Then I realized I shouldn't have bought one bottle. I need 2 bottles because one for the hangout and then one to do a solo review. So I got to go back and buy it. It's cheaper to buy the 6-pack, but I don't want a 6-pack of lemonade beer mix. A sample is fine. To drink a 6-pack, I'd hate it. Here we go. But you say, well, what isn't this a taste challenge? Yeah, okay. Hadn't done a Dawn Busters in a few days, but here is Crown Royal, introduced in 1939. The big glass, pretty bottle. This is the 1,750 milliliter bottle. It cost me $44.99 at Winn-Dixie. And there's talk that Winn-Dixie grocery chain is going to change their name. You say, well, why would they do that? Due to 2020 idiocy, obviously, extreme idiocy. But that's another story and maybe a video. All right, to explain thinking in an intelligent manner versus thinking as a fool, a moron, a dummy. But let's get past that. So I bought this there, and I got this big glass bottle and 2 glasses, Crown Royal glasses, for $44.99. I thought that was a good deal. Now, the competitor is Canadian Hunter, which is a fairly common brand. It's got a bullet there. I'll probably take that down because, bullets, violence. That's not correct. That's very triggering to people who are low IQ, Now, a Canadian Hunter, showing up Canadian Hunter with a rifle. Really trigger. Looking at that, I can't say. All right, and then he's got 2 hunting dogs. Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. Not an unusual thing. Many, if not most, probably most Canadian whiskeys have natural flavors added, which could be rum. I think it's a lot of white rum. Wine has to be wine aged in small wood. Brandy, bourbon from the United States, those kind of things. It's not going to be like sodium citrate or cane sugar or something like that. I mean, they could make one like that, but then I think it would have to be like a liqueur type situation, not a whiskey. All right. So Canadian Hunter, not to clean off the shoulders on this. And it's got antlers. And it was introduced in 1984. 1939 for Crown Royal, 1984 for the Hunter. They're both 80 proof, no age statement. Crown Royal is from Manitoba, way out in the country, in the rural areas, next to a lake. Is a huge facility. Now, Canadian Hunter is from somewhere in Canada. Can't say because Sazerac is very secretive about their operations. But they tell you here it's bottled at Sazerac, bottled by Sazerac, Frankfort, Kentucky. You say, Frankfort, isn't that where Buffalo Trace is located? Yeah. See, if it's bourbon like Old Charter or Old Taylor or Pappy Van Winkle or Buffalo Trace, they're going to call it Buffalo Trace Distillery or Wheatley Vodka Buffalo Trace. But if it's an inexpensive brand like Canadian Hunter, then all of a sudden it's Sazerac, Frankfort, Kentucky. So they're trying to distance this from Buffalo Trace. But that's where it's bottled. And if you go on a tour at Buffalo Trace, which I've been on 3 years ago, they'll take you around, show you a rick house where they're aging, ancient age, for instance, which they acknowledge, you know. But you're never going to see the facilities where they're bottling Canadian whiskey or rum from the West Indies. They just like want you to think about bourbon and the Wheatley vodka, and that's it. They're not going to bring you in to see the full Monty, as they say. You could tell it's an ancient age style bottle. Look, it's the same exact bottle as Ancient Age and McAfee's Old Number 8 bourbon. Those two bourbons. So you know in the same place. Oh, man. Golly. Now, there's also Canadian Hunter Rye. It's called Hunter Rye. Hunter Rye. I guess they figured Canadian Hunter Rye was too long of a name. We tried it in the little plastic bottles that I had bought, sample bottles, my friend David and I, and we really liked it. We really liked it. I never could find a full-size bottle of Canadian Rye. Hunter Rye, sorry. If I see it, I'll buy it. If the price is not, you know, crazily high. It's 90 proof also. Rye whiskeys, I noticed, tend to be higher proof. So I don't know what else to say about it. I've been trying a lot of rye whiskeys. Why ask rye? Why ask rye? Why ask why? Just try rye. Okay, take the cap off the Crown Royal with the crown and the royal pillow and the purple, the royal color of kings. Crown Royal, developed in 1939 in honor of the royal visit of King George VI, the king in Canada, and his wife Elizabeth visiting Canada. Cross-country tour. And they kept the bottle up. They kept it around because it was popular. So it's made with 50 different whiskeys, no age statement. Didn't arrive in the United States until 1964. Yeah. So it took 25 years to get over here. And I don't know why. Let's look at the color. Yeah, the Crown Royal, this is Crown Royal. It's obviously darker. This is lighter. The Hunter is lighter. I don't know why it took 25 years to come to the United States. I guess they figured really, it doesn't take that much to figure it out. You can just kind of like figure it out in your own mind without reading any history about it. It was created in Canada for a royal visit, the King George VI, and then his daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, is the Queen of Canada. And so Americans generally have no interest in that. It's meaningless to them that they would have a royal visit to Canada. So, like, why make a whiskey available here that's honoring that when no one cares about it? They're indifferent to it. So, but for some reason, Seagram's decided, hey, let's try selling it in the USA. They might like it. And then they put it in that purple bag, looked like a bag that you could hold ping pong balls in. Apparently, Dungeons and Dragon players like to put all their equipment in there. So, nice little handy bag with a pull string that'll tighten it. So, and they had a big ad campaign, and then it took off. So Crown Royal is like really hot today. For the last 55 years, sold in the United States for 56 years. Sorry, 64, 56 years. And so not really that long ago. It's older than me, but you know what I'm saying. In the world of whiskey, 56 years is like a week ago. It's like beer. People say, well, man, this beer has been on the market for 18 years. Well, that ain't nothing. That's nothing remarkable. That's like yesterday. You know, they got Guinness, goes back over 200 years. Murphy's Irish Stout, nearly 300 years. Over 300 years, that's right. So, you know, got Martell Brandy, Cognac, that's over 300 years. So, you know, 56 years is nothing. Now, if you're 21 years old, well, yeah, it's like a long, long time ago. Canadian Hunter was introduced by Seagram's company, Seagram's Distillers. Oh, Crown Royal was sold. It was, auctioned off to Diageo, who is Guinness. Somebody asked me, did Diageo buy Guinness? I say, no, Diageo is Guinness. All right. It's just a name they came up with as an umbrella for the whole company because they carry beer, wine, and spirits. You know what I'm saying? So it is Guinness. Seagram's went out of business in the year 2000. The company just fell apart due to, you know why, can't pay the debt. When you can't pay the debt, you get auctioned off. Simple as that. Pernod Ricard bought their Chivas Brothers Scotch interests, and then other parts of the company were auctioned off. So that's 20 years ago. I'm trying not to look at the whiskeys because there's a difference in appearance. Canadian Hunter. Seagram's made a big push in 1984 with introducing Canadian Hunter, a modern style Canadian whiskey, you know, like with a sleek design, a Hunter. It's like an action oriented whiskey. And a big ad campaign and sort of like Tom Selleck, Magnum PI type approach, like cool guy, Marlboro Man, macho whiskey. You know, be a man, be macho, and get out there, hunt, bullets, guns, rifles, the outdoor lifestyle, the manly lifestyle, Canadian Hunter. And if you look at the ads, they were kind of like focusing on it. But only 5 years later, just 5 years later, they sold Canadian Hunter to Sazerac with a bunch of other brands, many other brands, like Benchmark. I can't even name all the brands. It was so many, you know. But that was a sign right there. Seagram's was starting to fail because over the next 15 years, you'll notice they just kept from 84, 16 years to 2000. They were shedding brands, selling off brands to this company, selling brands to that company. And I guess they needed cash, but it didn't do any good. But they continued to innovate right till the end, though. I guess some people didn't see the end coming because they developed Seagram's VO Gold, gourmet version of Seagram's VO in just 1998. The company folded up 2 years later. So, but here is an old bottle. Check this out. I bought this at International Market. Imported Seagram's Canadian Hunter. Notice it says Seagram's Canadian Hunter. And that's an older style label. And it said proof of purchase. None of the new labels by the UPC code say proof of purchase. If you notice, I go to the store and they don't say that. Proof of purchase. And it's got like dotted lines like you could cut it out with scissors. Mellow Canadian sipping whiskey. You could tell it's old because the gold on here, the gold is oxidized, like it's some old thing that's almost like it's going to turn green. And everything about it is old. And the whiskey's pale, paler than today, although it's still pretty pale. And a blend imported and bottled by White Rock Distilleries, Lewiston, Maine. And that White Rock Distilleries was a Seagram's distillery in Maine. And guess who owns it now? Sazerac. Okay. It had gone out of business. I think Seagram sold it to some other company, and they didn't really want it. It could have been Beam, Jim Beam, and then they just shut it down. And then Sazerac was like, well, no, we want it because we could use that facility. So they bought it and started it up again. I believe that was the story. White Rock Distilling. But it's really just a blending and bottling plant in Lewiston, Maine. But it is under Sazerac. Drewski Brewski, you beat your sweet. You bet. Yeah. Okay. Not quite understanding what you're writing there. But anyway, mix it up a few more times and we'll go. Do I think Crown Royal is going to taste anything like Canadian Hunter? No. Now, my friend David said, I wouldn't drink that whiskey. Talking about the old bottle I have, which I guess is like 31 years old because it's saying Seagram's. After Sazerac bought it, why would they call it Seagram's, right? They just call it Canadian Hunter. Just like Crown Royal used to say Seagram's Crown Royal. I can prove that because I posted a photo from 1980 in alcohol eggs today. Old advertisement, Seagram's Crown Royal. And then the bag said Crown Royal by Seagram. But once Diageo bought it, what was the point of calling it Seagram's? They don't own it. They don't, it's not, of course, they'd still make Seagram's VO, but you can't take Seagram's off the VO name because that's what everybody knows it as. It's a Sazerac brand take. But enough history, people say, oh, this is too much, complicated. I can't keep up with all this history. You know, it's like rolling around in my mind. I get it. I don't think these are going to taste alike, and I don't think it's going to be a challenge. So, yeah, I get a grain alcohol burn on my nose. Just like fermented distilled alcohol. Grain alcohol, excuse me, grains. You know, grains, corn, rye, wheat, barley malt, malt whiskey, same thing. You say, well, Scotch does the same thing, blended Scotch. It's a base of grain whiskeys, and then they add in single malts, Speyside, Lowland, Highland, Islay, to give it some flavor. Yes, that's right. And that's what they do with Canadian whiskey. The flavor is not really coming from that column still corn whiskey, grain whiskey, but that's the grain they're using, believe me. Government subsidized grain. It's going to come from the, you know, the rye and the barley, the malt whiskey. Well, it smells fine. I think that must be Crown Royal. But let's go on. Yeah, I think this is the Canadian Hunter because although it isn't really that much different in the nose, it's like a grain whiskey, a fermented distilled grain. Okay, so same thing, but it's lower aromatics. And what I think is that Crown Royal is a bolder whiskey aroma. Now let's keep in mind, how much is a bottle of Crown Royal? About 24 bucks. The ad I posted from 1980 said it's about $14 and it won't suit some people, meaning it's going to be too expensive for some people. But if you got class and you're out the golf course, you know, you're that kind of person, you're driving your Mercury Marquis, then Crown Royals for you. You don't mind paying the 14 bucks. Well, of course, in today's money, that's 24 bucks, you see. So, but now in the year 2020, the infamous year of 2020, how much does Canadian Hunter run? You can get it for $8.99, $8.99, $8.99. True story at international market. Now, what would you rather pay, $8.99 or $23.99? You say, well, it depends how good the products are. If it's trashy and Crown Royal is exquisite, you know, might be worth the extra 15 bucks. But that's the question. Is this going to be a $15 difference? I'm thinking no. I don't care how, but we'll see. First, we got to see if I can tell them apart. Now, if you can't tell them apart, that's it. Show's over. It wouldn't be worth $1 more. I mean, if Crown Royal is so great and I can't tell it from Canadian Hunter, well, I mean, why would I even pay $1 more? I mean, it wouldn't make any sense. Unless aesthetically you like the pretty bottle in the bag and all of that. But I'm going to let you pay extra money for a velvet bag and a pretty bottle. This just tastes like just regular old whiskey. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you looked up whiskey in the dictionary, that's what this would taste like. You know what I'm saying? It's like standard. It's like somebody asked a question. I wonder what Canadian whiskey tastes like. Let them try that, and that would be a perfect representation. Obviously, there are many variants, deviations from this baseline. But that's baseline. That's your standard. That's your prototype. What does American beer taste like? Give them a Budweiser. What does Canadian beer, whiskey taste like? Give them a Crown Royal. Wonder what Scotch tastes like? Give them a Johnny Walker Red. What does Irish whiskey taste like? Give them a Jameson. Ooh, I've never had gold rum. What does that taste like? Let them try Bacardi Gold. You get the picture. So now, then you can go higher or lower from that baseline. All right. That's the Canadian Hunter. No use closing my eyes anymore. Well, I was right on the first get-go. On the get-go. Canadian Hunter has that strange sweet rum taste. John and Neil, they call it almond extract. I told him when I was at his house over the weekend, I said, yeah, I said, always use your name as a reference because you talk about how the Canadian whiskey tastes like almond extract, which we realize is not almonds, but it's probably white rum, silver rum that they're using. Extra sweet. It's allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed. Read your regs. Read your regs. Actually, Canadian whiskey is not allowed to have coloring and flavoring according to United States law. Now, that is a fact. Read the Tax and Trade Bureau website. There's only one little qualifying thing, though. Canadian whiskey is not imported under the law of the United States. It's imported and produced under the law of Canada. So their regulations take precedence, you see. See, Canadian whiskey is not made in the United States. It's made in Canada. So that's what the Tax and Trade Bureau is saying. We don't allow it to have coloring or flavoring added. But we're not following our guidelines. We're importing it under the guidelines of Canada. So our regulations don't matter. Same thing with Scotch. So it's a very interesting way to look at it. It's not defined according to U.S. law. It's defined according to Canadian law. Makes sense. It's a Canadian product. It's not a health situation anyway. It's not like, well, we have strict health regulations, but we can allow dangerous products to come in because we're going to allow it to be imported under their poor sanitation. I'm not talking about Canada, just hypothetically any country. It's nothing to do with that. It's about coloring, flavoring, and so-called quality regulations as far as purity and all of that of the product relative to what people expect. Bourbon cannot have flavoring or coloring, but bourbon is a United States of America product. So it would be, of course, produced according to the regulations of the United States of America. apparently, and I'm not quite sure about this, but apparently some American whiskeys that are not truly bourbon are sold in Europe as bourbon because their regulations for what is a bourbon are not as strict. Early times, it just says whiskey because it's aged in used barrels. It used to be straight bourbon, but Brown-Forman decided to relegate it to a budget brand, so now they age it in used barrels, second run bourbon barrels. So they got to just call it whiskey. But I see ads in the European stores, it'll say straight bourbon. On the other hand, it might be a different product sold off to Canada, off to Europe. You see, what you buy in Poland might be straight bourbon for their market. There's also in early times bottled and bond, 100 proof. But that's another story. But I've heard other people say that. Now, Crown Royal is just straight up standard product. Tastes normal. Not exciting. It's kind of bland. Doesn't have a lot of action, but it's still very good. It's well made. It's always going to taste the same anywhere in the world. I can't really complain about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like it. I guess it's worth $24. I mean, you know, it just tastes like a good product. You said, well, Jack Daniels is about $24, Bob. Yeah, I know. You're buying the name. You're buying the name. You're buying the name. When you buy Crown Royal, Jameson, Jack Daniels, Johnny Walker Red, you're buying the name. I get it. I understand. Okay, you vape. We get it. Canadian Hunter is a little unusual relative to what you expect from Canadian whiskey, meaning it's got a strange sugary sweetness. You say, well, I drink whiskey. I don't expect to be drinking candy sugar. Yeah, I know, right? But that's what it tastes like. And a nut oil, like pecan oil or walnut oil. Well, it says with natural flavors added, and it tastes like it's got flavors added. It tastes like it says. It says natural flavors added. It tastes like it. Now, whether that appeals to you or not, I don't know. Some people say, well, I like it. I like it that way because it gives it a more flavor. I put it on ice, you know, pour it on the rocks and drink it. And I've had people tell me multiple times, oh, I like Canadian Hunter, but I could kick back with that. Okay, it must be sort of popular. It does sell. I think it's in the top 10 Canadian whiskey sold in the United States. Might be the top 20, but I think it's in the top 10. Are you going to see a bunch of ads for it? No. Maybe a point of sale. You might go to a liquor store and see some cardboard sign hanging up, you know, the spirit of the hunt or something like that, say Canadian Hunter. And, you know, that's it. They might have a rebate, like run it this month. $4 off if you buy at least 2 750 bottles. I've seen those before. Actually, I've seen that. So, but beyond that, you're not going to hear it on the radio. You're not going to see Canadian Hunter television commercial during television, you know, on television. I was going to say during a sporting event, but they don't have those anymore. Due to people believing in phantoms. It's funny. Some people say, I don't believe in superstition. You must, but you must. You do. You do. You are superstitious. You just select which superstition you want to believe in, you see. And I can see that you believe in it because I'm looking at what you're wearing. All right. Is Crown Royal better? Well, it's darker. I guess it's better, but it's not way better. There's no way $15 a bottle better. I'm gonna let you pay the $15. I'm not doing it. I just don't see it. I mean, I don't even know if it's better. I say, I guess it's better. I don't even really know if it's better. I'm just saying that because I don't want to look too silly on the internet. I mean, everybody's like, come on, dude, it's Crown and Coke, man. I'm getting off of work tonight. I'm going to drink some Crown. You know, I don't ever hear anybody say, I'm getting off of work. I'm going to drink some Canadian Hunter, you know. But obviously people do because I know it sells. But they don't brag about it, you know. $15 a bottle more. I can't see that. Now y'all can give me some feedback, tell me what you think, but I just don't see it. I cannot see that. They were both started by the same company, Seagrams, who went out of business, like I said, 20 years ago. And I don't know. I'm going to do some more Crown Royal videos. I got the bourbon mash, alternatively called the blender's mash, but they back to calling it bourbon mash again. They got past a little legal dispute. It's not a bourbon. You know, they had to change the name because of foolish people being foolish. You know what I'm saying? But they got that corrected. I don't know how that's going to taste because I ain't never had it. I never had Canadian Crown Royal Black. I never had the Reserve. I never had blah, 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 blah. I'm sure they're better. They better be better. They cost more money. But Crown Royal on its own, I'm fine with it. People ask me, if somebody asked me, do you like Crown Royal? I would say, yeah. But I might add a statement, comma, but I wouldn't pay the extra money for it. I'm not paying $24 a bottle. And if somebody asked me, do you like Canadian Hunter? I'd say, yeah. And I wouldn't have to make comma, but I'm not. See, because it's $8.99 a bottle, so why would I have to add anything? I would buy it because it's cheap and it tastes good. Two good combinations. I mean, that's a good combination, right? One, it's cheap. Two, it tastes good. One is cheap. Two, it tastes good. One is cheap. Two, it tastes good. I mean, it's kind of a goofy looking bottle. I mean, it is cheap in the sense that, come on, man, you know you're using a McAfee's bottle for it. You know you're using an ancient age bottle. That's the like smarmy thing about it. It's like Sazerac can't even use its own bottle for each brand. They just use a standard bottle, which is obviously a knockoff of Jack Daniels. That's why Jack Daniels went to that sharp edge bottle, because everybody was trying to copy their bottle. So that's sort of embarrassing, right? They're not even going to spend money to make its own individual bottle. Sounds nice. They just use like a bourbon bottle to put Canadian whiskey in. So that looks kind of funk, you know. But it's really not the packaging, which is questionable. It's what's inside. And what's inside is good. To me, it tastes good. But, I mean, this was the real Canadian Hunter. You know what I'm saying? No, I mean. But Sazerac bought it and said, forget it. We'll just put in just put it out there. Okay, you good. You did it. All right, so that's it. End of the video. It's been going on over 30 minutes. So really, Daryl Macias, good morning. Good morning to you. Really, when you think about it, Crown Royal loses this battle. Yeah, it tastes maybe better. Arguably, it's better. And that's questionable because it could be a personal preference issue. It's not really a quality issue from what I can assess. And secondly, the price has to matter. Now, some people tell me you should never talk about price. And I always say, like to my friend David, I say, why? You paying it? I mean, why wouldn't I talk about price? You know, I mean, people say, well, if price didn't matter, what would you say? Yeah, but price does matter, right? I mean, you got to buy it. Now, if everybody gave me whiskey, beer, wine, other liquors to drink, and I never had to pay for it, yeah, obviously price wouldn't matter because I'm not paying for it. But most people in the world got to pay for it, so price matters. That's just my thinking. And in this case, we're talking about $15. It's not $2. We're talking about $15. So I would say that Crown Royal has lost this battle. All things considered, it has lost the battle. Does that bother me? Well, no, because I don't even care. I did the taste challenge because it was interesting. But as far as who wins or loses, I don't care. I got no skin in the game. I got no horse in the race. I own no stock in either company. Of course, I couldn't own stock in Sazerac because it's a privately held company. All the companies, the whole entire company is owned by a man and his wife. There's no board of directors. It's just a man and his wife. It's a proprietorship, because they would be seen as this in the law. The husband and wife is seen as one person. That's why you can't be compelled to testify against your spouse. But anyway, that's it. End of the story. We're coming back later today. That's the plan, later today. And we're going to do Canadian Limited. Oh, what am I saying? I did that already. Rich and Rare. I'm sorry. Crown Royal versus Rich and Rare. You say, oh, that's a mismatch of all proportions. Rich and Rare, the lowly Rich and Rare, introduced in 1961 by Gooderham Distilling. Well, we think it's a mismatch, but we might be shocked. Thank you very much.